Hello and good morning everyone. I'm Ankita and we Group 3 are excited to present our analysis of nil and shelter performance for the month using Manager Accounting Insight. Our team examined the company's recent result, focusing on how well the static budget report reflects actual operation and identify reason for the profit shortfall. This presentation builds on concepts like flexible budgeting, cost behavior, and variance analysis, as well as the ethical consideration. Our goal is to provide the clear recommendation to help management and make better decisions going forward. Moving to the next slide. Here is the outline of our talk. We start the case in overview and this objective. We'll then present the budget versus actual data to set the context. After that, we'll explain why profit dropped to two-thirds of the expected value and discuss why the static budget report is misleading. Next, we'll compare static and flexible budget and outline cost behavior. Then, slow flexible budget at various activities level and evaluate the revised performance report. Finally, we'll reflect on the ethical issue involved, discuss normative behavior, offer recommendation, and close with the key insight and references. So moving towards the next slide, let me discuss on the NIL company. NIL and the SIL tour provide a boat tour among the scenic route and charge passengers based on kilometer traveled. The company budgeted 35,000 km for the last month but actually ran 32,000 km. The commercial manager prepared the static budget performance reporting showing favorable variance in fuel, maintenance, and crew cost. However, the owner noticed that the fuel fell from the budgeted of 12,950 to just 8,600. Our assessment was to evaluate why the profit dropped, assess the accuracy of the performance report, prepare flexible budget at a 3 activity level, and examine ethical responsibility. We'll use class concept and the cost behavior and budgeting to guide our analysis. So moving towards the next slide. This table summarizes the budget versus the actual data. The budget assumed 35,000 km, projecting revenue of 122,500, variable cost of 85,750, fixed cost of 23,800, and profit of 12,950. Actual result at 30,000 km shows revenue of 112,000, variable cost of 78,500, fixed cost of 24,900, and profit of 8,600. You'll notice the variable cost fell by about 7,250, which seems favorable, but revenue fell like 10,500, driving down profit. Fixed cost increased slightly to 24,900. Our task is to unpack this number. Are the cost saving real or just mechanical due to the lower activity? And how do the fixed and variable costs behave in different level activities? So, moving to the next slide. So, why did the profit drop to two-thirds of the expected level? First, the company ran 9% fewer kilometers than planned, which reduced passenger revenue proportionally. Each kilometer lost means fewer customers and the low contribution margin. Second, most expenses, fuel, maintenance, crew salaries are variable cost. They remain constant per kilometer but rise or fall with activity. Therefore, lower kilometer automatically produce lower total variable cost. This doesn't indicate efficiency, just less well done. Third, fixed costs such as depreciation, docking fees, supervisory salaries, and fixed selling and administration costs remain unchanged in total. When activity falls, all fixed costs are spread over fewer kilometers, increasing the cost per kilometer and enduring profit. In our case, some fixed costs were well overspent. Selling and administrative costs were about $1,400 higher than the budgeted, which further reduced profit. Now, I'd like to hand over the rest of my presentation to friends who will be delivering everything in detail. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Shafayat Hussain and I'll start from slide number 6. So this chart compares budget and actual figures for revenue, variable costs, fixed costs, and profit. The blue bars represent budgeted amounts at 35,000 kilometers and the orange bars represent actual results at 32,000 kilometers. Notice that revenue dropped by over $10,000 from 122,500 to 112,000. Variable costs fell by about 7,000, which is expected because fewer kilometers were run. Fixed costs actually increased slightly from 23,800 to 24,900. The result is that profit dropped by 12,950 to 8,600. The takeaway here is that the static budget misleads us. It compares costs at different activity levels. We need a flexible budget to adjust for the actual kilometers and distinguish between cost behavior and the operational efficiency. Now let's get into the slide. Now, next slide. This slide talks about static versus flexible budgets. A static budget is prepared for one specific activity, here 35,000 kilometers. It assumes costs are linear at that level. So comparing it to actual cost at 32,000 kilometers will always show favorable variances for variable costs because we are doing less work. A flexible budget adjusts variable cost to actual level of activity while holding fixed costs constant. This allows us to measure performance properly. As our class noted, flexible budgets are essential for evaluating cost control, especially in environments with variable volumes. Without flexibility, savings from a reduced activity can be mistaken for efficiency, and managers might get credit for simply running fewer hours. Now let's get into the next slide, which is cost behavior, variable versus fixed. Understanding cost behavior is the key. Variable costs can change in total with activity, but remain constant per unit. In our case, fuel maintenance and crew salaries are variable. For example, fuel might cost 80 cents per kilometer. If you travel less, your total fuel cost drops. Fixed costs remain constant in total regardless of activity within the relevant range. Here, depreciation, docking fees, supervisory salaries, and fixed selling and admin costs are fixed. Even if tours decrease, the company still pays these costs. Some costs have mixed characteristics, but our analysis assumes maintenance and the crew salaries behave as a variable cost. Recognizing these categories helps us see why variable costs dropped when kilometers dropped and why fixed costs per kilometers increased. Now let's get into the next slide. So this table shows flexible budgets at three activity levels: 32,000, 35,000, and 38,000 kilometers. Revenue is calculated at $3.50 per kilometer, and variable costs are budgeted at $2.45 per 45 cent per kilometer in total. At 32,000 kilometers, revenue should have been 112,000. Variable costs 78,000. 400, fixed costs 23,800, and profit about 9,800. At 35 kilometers, profit would have been 12,950. At 38,000 kilometers, profit increases to 1,600 to 100 because the contribution margin of $1.05 per kilometer is earned on more kilometers. This table illustrates that lower profit was largely due to lower activity. If company had maintained 35,000 kilometers, it would have achieved close to budgeted profit. If it had increases to 38,000 kilometers, it would have earned even more. Now let's get into slide number 10, which is profit versus activity level. Here's a line chart showing profit across activity levels. At 32,000 kilometers, profit is 9,800. At 35,000 kilometers, profit is about 12,950. And at 38,000 kilometers, it climbs to 16,100. The profit line rises steadily with activity because the contribution margin per kilometer remains constant while fixed costs stay the same. This illustrates the power of leveraging fixed costs. More tours means more revenue without increasing fixed expenses. The chart reinforces that the profit shortfall was caused by lower volume, not by poor cost control. It also highlights the importance of using contribution margin analysis, calculating revenue minus variable costs to plan for different activity levels. So now my next teammate will cover rest of the parts. Thank you for listening.
Hi, I'm Anit and we're group number 3. I'll be starting from slide 11. So this revised performance report compares actual result at 32,000 kilometers with the flexible budget at the same activity level. Revenue matched the budget at 112,000. Variable cost performance was mixed. Boat maintenance was 1,000 over budget, while crew salaries were 500 under budget. Variable setting and admin costs exceeded budget by 300, while fuel and usage-based depreciation were 700 favorable. Overall, total variable costs were only 1,000 above budget. On the fixed side, depreciation and supervisory salaries were on or below budget, with docking fees and fixed selling and administrative costs were overspent, particularly the latter by 1,400. As a result, actual profit was 8,600, while in 1,200 below the flexible budget benchmark. This shortfall was mainly driven by maintenance overruns and higher fixed administrative cost. So this chart summarizes the key variances. The large unfavorable variances are boat maintenance at 1,000 and fixed selling and admin cost at $1,400. These are particularly offset by favorable variances in crew salaries and fuel. Net profit shows a 1,200 unfavorable variance consists with the flexible budget analysis. The key insight here is that the favorable variances reported under the original static budget were largely mechanical. One costs are flexed to the actual activity level. The real issue, maintenance and fixed costs overspending, become clear, allowing management to focus on genuine problem areas. This analysis showed that the favorable cost variances in the static report were caused by lower activity, not efficiency. When the budget is flexed, this apparent saving disappear. The profit shortfall was mainly due to tour volume and overspending in maintenance and fixed administrative cost. While the company achieved fuel efficiency and some labor saving, these activity positivities were outweighed by poor control of fixed cost. This highlights why flexible budgeting is essential for fair performance evaluation. Without it, managers may make inappropriate decisions such as cutting staff or marketing, when the underlying issue is reduced activity and fixed cost management. Where there is also an important ethical dimension. SAMI as a CPA is bounded by AICPA Code of Professional Conduct, where emphasis integrity, objectivity, due care, and serving the public interest. She has a responsibility to provide accurate and unbiased information and not allow pressure from management to distort reporting. In this case, SAMI should resist pressure to rely on misleading static budget and instead present the flexible budget results to the owner. By doing so, she protects the company's long-term interests and ensures decisions are based on faithful representation of performance. From a normative ethics perspective, managers should act with integrity and transparency. Raj's behavior creates self-interest and undue influence threats by overstating cost performance and discouraging accurate reporting. Ethical management requires budget that reflect actual activity levels and clear disclosure of assumptions. Behavioral research discussed in class shows that extensive focus on favorable variances can encourage dysfunctional behavior. Participative budgeting and realistic targets reduce those risks and improve motivative. Managers should align incentives with long-term organizational goal rather than short-term profit outcomes and encourage open discussions about performance drivers.
Hello everyone, this is Damar Bishavarma. Now I'm gonna explain about behavioral implication of budgeting. This case also highlight the behavioral effects of budgeting. When managers focus too heavily on favorable cost variance, it can lead to dysfunctional behavior such as cutting necessary spending or reducing activity. just to look good against budget. Static budgets can unintentionally encourage underutilization of capacity or delayed maintenance. Research covered in our courses shows that participate budgeting and flexible performance measures reduce this problem by setting realistic expectations and improving motivation. Using both financial and non-financial measures helps ensure performance is evaluated fairly. Recommendation: based on our analysis, we recommend that nail the sale tours, adopt flexible budgeting for both planning and performance evaluation. Performance reports should always be based on actual activity levels. Management should investigate the overspending in maintenance and fixed selling and administrative costs. Ethics training should be reinforced, and incentive schemes should be aligned with long-term performance rather than short-term profit figures. These steps will improve decision making, transparency, and accountability. Conclusions and takeaway. In summary, the profit shortfall was driven mainly by lower activity levels and fixed cost overruns, not just by poor control of variable costs. The original static budget report was misleading because it fails to adjust for the actual kilometer travel. Flexible budgeting revealed the true performance picture and highlighted where corrective action is needed. Ethical and objective reporting is essential to ensure managers make informed decisions that support long-term organization performance. Key insights. The key insights from this case are: the volume changes can have significant impact on profit. Flexible budget are critical for fair performance evaluation, and ethical judgment is essential in management accounting. Going forward, questions for management include how to improve capacity in utilization, which cost areas requires close monitoring, and how ethical standard can be embedded into budgeting process. We welcome any questions. Reference: our analysis is supported by academic and professional sources, including AICPA, Code of Professional Conduct, guidance on flexible budgeting, and materials on cost behavior and behavior implications of budgeting covered in class. These references ensure our conclusions are grounded in established management accounting principle. Thank you for this listening. That concludes our presentation. We are happy to take any questions.